What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. This is Tyler.
And I am Philip.
All right, Philip.
I was trying to come up with like a catchy thing, but I couldn't come up with anything on the spot because we started recording.
Phil, we're on episode 30. Shouldn't you have a catchphrase by now?
Yeah, episode 30. I don't know. It's something I need to work on, I suppose. Usually I try to interject something that I did recently into like who I am, but I was going to say like I'm 500-meter Philip, but that doesn't make any sense because that means like I'm a really long version of myself.
Bro, you're the Dutch bullfrog.
Sure. But yeah, anyway, so welcome to episode 30 of the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. We're going to be talking about our what are we talking about, Tyler? What is this episode that we have found ourselves into?
Well, today we're gonna
like at a immature level of podcasting quality. This is pretty bad.
I don't even know what you're talking about. But all I can say is we are on part 3 of our Prepared Citizen series. And episode 1, we spoke about the absolute basics. Or really, more importantly, we talked about what does it even mean to be a prepared citizen. And we spoke about the absolute basics. We went over the importance of having a semi-automatic rifle. Phil did convince me because I was pretty convinced that as a prepared citizen, the first thing you should get is a concealed carry rig. But Phil did convince me in the context of a Minuteman, yes, you probably should get a semi-automatic rifle. We spoke about sighting systems and all the other things that come with a rifle. What's up, Phil?
Yeah, I was just gonna say in the context of real world, like realistically, if you have the ability to conceal carry in your state, probably be your first investment because
for sure.
the true usefulness of a pistol concealed carry is infinitely more like something that you will need than having a rifle on your person, right? Like if we were back in the days of the growth of our country and the beginning of our country, yeah, maybe you have a rifle to carry around with you.
Oh, for sure.
For bears.
Or if you have swords, man.
In red coats.
Could you imagine? I'm just like, I mean, for me being an Asian, like I could walk around with a samurai sword. That'd be cool.
That would be sweet.
That would be amazing. Let's bring back samurai swords.
I agree. There's a guy at the Zombie Invitational because we're about to hit October, and we're talking,
which I am not even close to being ready for.
Yeah, there's a dude that brings a samurai sword as his fixed blade weapon. That is a requirement, and he has it on his backpack. It's like what's that show? Walking Dead. I swear it's just like that. It's awesome.
Did you know I was in high school when Walking Dead came out?
It's funny because I don't even remember when that show came out. I never really watched it. Maybe like 1 or 2 episodes.
I've never watched it, but apparently I think someone said it came out in 2011. So if that's the case, I would have been actually it was 2011. I would have been a sophomore. But either way, so that was episode 1. We spoke about the absolute basics, and in episode 2, we spoke about the basics where we looked on now going from a rifle, we went to our belts, what we actually put on our belts, whether it's the magazine, medical, pistols, etc. And now we're on to, actually, we went basics and advanced, and that's where we spoke about the belt and the pistol. I'm looking at my notes, but now we are apparently going to, I love this list how you have absolute basics to basics to advanced to now today's episode, which is
Advanced Plus.
Advanced Plus. There we go. So Phil, why don't you go ahead and talk about Advanced Plus? What does that even mean?
It's funny. I was actually going to rate these like, when you see like tiers of rating online where they're like,
D,
they start with like, and then like
A,
tier S or whatever.
Yeah.
But realistically, like,
where does S tier even come from? I got to figure this out. I'm going to look it up.
Special.
Where
It's like a Pokemon thing. I swear it's a Pokemon thing.
I don't think it's a Pokemon thing.
It's a Yu-Gi-Oh thing.
It actually is from Japan. It is a ranking origin. I figured it was like, I was thinking like an anime manga type of a thing. So it is Japanese. So S rank is a rank classifications that may be referred to a ranking originating from academic grading in Japan.
Oh, no
used to describe a level, superlative to grades such as A, B, etc. It may be used in real or fictional tournaments or ranking lists such as martial arts, fights, video games, etc.
So
So
you could get a grade
came
better
from
than an
Japan.
A in Japan.
Yeah.
You could get an S for
hmm
special.
I mean that's the Japanese for you. They are overachievers and workaholics. So
That is true.
lo- love you
And they're
guys.
also declining in population. So, work is not
Unfortunately, yeah,
everything.
I know I've got my opinions about that, but
Yeah.
cool.
So advanced plus is the items that will take you beyond advanced.
Beyond what?
As I was saying that, I was going to go into like some like big, like drawn out description of advanced plus and how great it is. But no, realistically, these are things that are not necessarily a requirement to be a prepared citizen, but some things that you can consider if you have purchased other items already, right? And these kind of get into some of the more modern concepts of a modern concerned citizen. And it's actually something I think T Rex Arms talks about a little bit too, where one of their goals was to normalize civilians owning body armor.
I agree.
And for somebody who's would be listening to this podcast who is not in the shooting community, it's probably still a little bit weird for them to consider owning body armor. Because why would you need body armor after all, right? We live in a civilized society.
I
Well,
don't
the
know about
point
that.
is, we live in a civilized society today, right? Like, if you think about all these countries that are having, wars with, we talked about these already before, within the Middle East and like Ukraine, right? Like, body armor is like a premium thing, right? Because you're being provided most likely by your government, but there are some people that had to, at the beginning of the war, especially pull their own plates and everything in order to defend their country. So again, this is just more about normalizing body armor and saying, hey, if our police and military can own it, why can't civilians?
I 100% agree with that.
So what are you going to put that body armor in, Tyler?
Oh, plate carrier.
Yeah,
It's funny because when you say body armor, my brain already automatically thinks of I know it's not interchangeable, but of course when I think body armor, I'm already thinking of a plate carrier together.
that's
So
legit. They go
yeah,
hand in hand
they
like peas
do.
and
They go
carrots.
hand in hand. You don't really you're not most people aren't just gonna buy body armor and not have a plate carrier. Granted, people probably will buy a plate carrier but not get body armor, just
That's
which I
true.
totally understand, especially for the sake of price. So, because body armor, it's not cheap. Which I mean, I do have a pair right at the moment. I have a pair of cheap LA police gear, which I know they've gone up in price as well. But eventually, I would love to get just some type of level 3. I forgot what material it is. It's like some type of like things like a
Yeah, it's like a
polyurethane, polyethylene, or
yep,
whatever,
yep.
because they're apparently like extremely thin, really light, and they're multi hit, just like ceramic. So I don't see why not.
Which
I
brings
mean,
up a
I
good
know the big reason why people don't get it is like they're typically
expensive. Yeah.
exactly extremely expensive.
But you bring up a good point too, and you mentioned the term level 3 body armor.
hmm
That I would say is a minimum, and there are what they're called levels of body armor in the NIJ. They're the ones that actually test body armor, and then they get a rating from the NIJ. Now, I heard these are going to change because there's a lot of
Really
confusion between
good.
like yeah,
3A,
level
that's
3A,
confusing.
level 3, that kind of stuff. So they're going to change, and they're going to change the way that they're rated and how they're handling it. But for now, the common
Like
like
S tier and A and
yeah,
B.
right.
There
Shiny
we go.
tier like in
Yeah,
Pokemon.
exactly. Oh, 100%.
But right now, like level 3 body armor is going to defeat most of your rifle cartridges out there, like intermediate rifle cartridges. There's also things people call like level 3 plus that will also stop things like 308. Most 308, but
Wait,
not
there's
all
a
of
3
it.
plus?
Yeah, it's not an official term.
I
Um,
see. That if that was
yep,
official, that would be so confusing how you have three different
I
rankings for
know
3.
3A, 3 plus, and 3. But
That's
it's kind
confusing.
of it's what some manufacturers will create their body armor so that it can handle some of the larger rifle calibers, but not necessarily all of them. So you can say like it'd be non-armor piercing, like 308, for example. You could stop that. And then level 4 is going to protect even above that. And I believe that also includes, and I'm probably wrong, but it's going to include like more of the armor piercing like rounds, right? And it's not going to stop everything. Like you're not going to stop a 50 cal. Good luck. You need a tank to do that, or armored personnel carrier of some sort. But level 3 is the minimum. If you Some people also supplement level 3 with level 3A just because it tends to be soft and you can put it together and kind of like use level 3A as a backer of sorts.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not
I've
very
never heard
heavy.
of
Like think
that.
of Kevlar. Kevlar is usually level 3A, right?
Okay.
Um, ballistic helmets also level 3A as well. Typically, if you get any higher than that, you're talking really heavy or you're talking really expensive,
I know that's
or
already pretty
both.
heavy to begin with.
It is. Um, so I would say level 3 are the minimum. If you can get level 3 plus, quote unquote, that would probably be a great idea too. Do the research, find out what they block, what you're concerned about. Again, level 4 tends to weigh more than level 3. So that's something you can take into consideration as well too. Or you're gonna pay through the nose for level 4 that weighs less. Again, it's all that. You can have, what does it they say? You can have three things. You can have lightweight, you can have protection. Sorry, you can have two or three things. You can have lightweight and protection, or you can have cost. You have one of those, or two of those three. You can't have all three at the same time.
That's
It's
so
impossible.
true. That's such a good point. I've never heard of that, but that's so true.
Yep. Anyway, there are plenty of places to get armor. People really like their Hescos. There's a bunch of other Mira makes a plate. They're known for doing gas masks. They make a plate that I'm actually probably going to end up with next personally. It's a level 4, weighs slightly
When
more than what I have today.
when did they make plates?
I swear I've talked to you about them before, but they're not overly. They use foreign materials, but they
Oh,
assemble them in
there
the
it is.
U.S. and they are multi-hit level 4. They weigh slightly more than the plates that we have today.
That's a pretty penny.
It's like 250 a plate, I think, which is really not too bad.
Well, I mean, I see that one. I see something else that's like, what is this? $1,500? What is that?
No, I don't know what that is. That might be new. They maybe have a new offering. Last time I checked was like last Christmas.
Yep, I see it. It's curved. Ooh, and also another thing too that I would love to have is a
Yeah,
multi-curved
multi-curve.
plate. Just because, like, yeah, I have a big old gap in my plate carrier because of my body armor, just because it's only curved. That's the one down. I will admit that is a downside of humble bragger here working out. So, granted, I have not worked out in a few weeks. It's been crazy at work.
That's funny.
But I've been doing.
I've never had issues with just standard like single curve armor, but
Oh no, I
I don't
have
have the I
gaps.
don't have
It
the
sucks.
pectorials like Tyler does.
But apparently, these mirror plates are 5.9 pounds per plate.
Hmm.
That just seems heavy.
Well, I think anyway. I don't want to get too far into that. Anyway, so if you're gonna have that body armor, you also need to put it into a plate carrier,
Oh yeah.
right? So you need to have a place to stick them there. Now you could if you wanted to, you could use some duct tape and duct tape it to your body.
How are you gonna take it on and off?
If you're not. You're going to be on that roof of that building defending your store with duct tape body armor on you, I guess.
I guess. Well,
But
it's kind, well, it's kind of
honestly,
like it's kind of like those tactical pants that have their battle belt like sewn into it to where I'm like at that point, it's like, do you just take everything off? Like, how do you wash it? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. And honestly, like people are going to poo poo this, but nylon is nylon. If you're not using it a lot, like we do competition in our body armor, so it gets abused. We tend to spend a little bit more on like a product that's going to be, in theory, sewn together maybe a little bit better. But honestly, you can buy like a no frills LA Police Gear plate carrier for like $60. Anyway, LA Police Gear, please sponsor us. Um, I know we talk about them a lot, but they do offer a lot of decent solutions. I have a couple backpacks for them that I've used in various competitions that just stand up just fine. I've thrown them in and out of vehicles. It's been fine. Again, if you are putting a lot of time and a lot of practice into a plate carrier, it's probably not a bad idea to look at something like a Faro Concepts, London Bridge Trading, and that's a big one. What's the one that you have, Tyler? HRT? Is that
Oh
what it's
yeah,
called?
and you guys should sponsor us too, HRT.
I know. And
I
there's one other big one I'm
love your
forgetting too.
carriers.
Um, but
Um,
anyways, so
those are
look
kind of the
at
two that I will think of, Pharaoh and HRT Grants, because those are two that we have.
right.
Like,
There
don't you
there
have
are
a?
some other ones out there, and I'm forgetting the name of the other major brand too that everybody
There's
loves.
so many out there.
But there's a lot. Do your research, find something that works for you. Find out like somebody you've talked to that's maybe used one either overseas in the desert, or that has used it for competition purposes, and ask them how it works, right? And then ask them how it stood up the test of time. Okay, so having the plate carrier, with the plates in them is a great start, right? But when you have the plate carrier and then you have the plates kind of flattening that out for you, providing a surface to put other things on, there's like a question of why not, right, Tyler? So, what kind of things are you going to hang from your plate carrier that will utilize that space that you have on your body?
I mean, of course, what's really nice about having a plate carrier is now I'm able to carry more on top of it. And typically the first thing I will get is some type of plaque. Depending on your plate carrier, my HRT that uses placards. So I'll just
Yep.
get a magazine placard, and there's a bunch of different ones out there. The one that I like that I use probably the most is the HRT calls it the Maximus placard, but essentially it's three AR mag pouches, and then there are two pistol pouches on the side of it, and then two administrative pouches in front of it. So it gets pretty darn bulky, but at the same time, I'm able to have everything that I need right in front of me in a situation where if I am by myself, I'm able to grab things without having to ask for help.
Right.
Now, hopefully, I'm not in a situation. If, well, one, hopefully, I'm never in a situation anyway. And two, hopefully, I'm with people. I'm not by myself.
Right.
So, but I
And
would
there's
say
a
a
few.
magazine placard
Yep, I would agree with that. And that again, that goes
or
to extend your
pouch.
yeah, it goes to extend your capabilities because you can carry more ammo on you, right?
Hmm. Now,
Um,
it's even the weight distribution as well. I can't remember what
yeah,
the phrase is, but it's basically, what was it like an ounce? Was it like an ounce on your hips is like a pound on your chest or something like
right.
that? But in the sense of like
It's
all
easier to
that,
carry on your
it's
chest. Yep.
significantly easier to carry on your chest, on your shoulders versus your hips. Because I'll admit there are days my knees hurt after a long range day if I have my belt on because it's just a lot of weight on me. I even think of concealed carry. Phil knows this, but I conceal carry every single day. I mean, even today, I probably did like 16,000 steps today, and I concealed carry the whole time for
Dang,
what,
dude.
12 hours. I just
You
took my
put
gun off like
you
an
put
hour
you
ago.
didn't wear your tactical fanny pack then.
No, I
Oh,
did
sometimes
not
I
bring
wonder
a
if you're at
tactical
work, you're
fanny
just like,
pack.
oh, I'm just here. There's nobody around. Tactical fanny
Yeah,
pack.
I know. But I mean, I don't think about it. That's the thing. I kind of forget I have it until I take it off. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what it's like not having a gun.
That's funny.
So, hmm.
Yeah, I work from home, so I guess I could carry around the house, but no, I usually sit with my pistol on me. I probably should. You never know, somebody's gonna bust in your house in the middle of the day, some zombies or something.
Well,
All right. So the other thing,
that's when most home invasions happen anyway during the day
that's right.
because most people will. Fun facts, fun tip, I guess, not a fun tip, but free tip of the day. Home invasions typically happen during the day because bad guys like easy targets and like they don't like opposition. So they usually break in during the day hoping no one is home or someone who's strong is not home typically.
Dude, my
So
kids are so loud.
yeah, exactly.
But
And
you
you've
know,
got dogs.
I
But at
do.
the
I'll
same
say
time too,
I open carry my dogs in my house.
there you go.
Yeah,
But home invasions that happen at night typically is because you're being targeted.
right.
Or the dude's just that high or drunk or something. That's about it. All right, so moving on from that.
Yeah. So I think the next thing that you're looking at, again, we talk about balance as well too. If you're going to carry a plate carrier, and let's say you are moving around, let's say you are like you're going to need a way to keep hydrated, right? Because you're adding, no matter what, either way, you want to drink bottle with you, you're going to have it with you. Why not put that on your back, right? And that will actually help balance you out a little bit because you're going to add additional magazines in the front, fully loaded, 20 to 29 or 30, depending on who you are.
Or
And
28.
then in order to balance
Or if
that
you're
out,
Battle Gnome 32.
yeah, dude, stuff them on in until they break your fingers. But you can toss a you toss a hydration pouch right on the back of your plate
Hmm.
carrier and have like 2 to 3 liters of water with you at all time. Run that like straw or tube up to the front of you. I know every time like we go practicing for matches and stuff, Tyler's always got water in his hydration pouch. He's drinking
Oh,
from it.
always. I would say that in a play carrier, that's probably one of the most important things you have. There are some things that I would say there's room for debate, but when it comes to hydration, you need hydration in your plate carrier because you need water. If you're going to be wearing a plate carrier, you're obviously going to be moving long distances, or you're in high stressful situations, or you're maybe secluded. You need water. You need to be able to stay hydrated. So you need to stay hydrated and have snacks somewhere.
And you're going to put those in your dangler. So moving on from hydration onto one thing I do want to say about hydration is don't cheap out on a hydration pouch. Modern plastics being the way they are, even a lot of cheap ones can last a decent amount of time.
Hmm.
But find something that has got a good track record. Camelback is one of those brands that
Oh
just
yeah.
de facto go with. I've always used those, and they come in different sizes and whatnot. They have some that are specifically designed for plate carriers, just with the way that the hoses hook up, the type of braided material they have on them to kind of fit in more with your aesthetic,
Yep.
and I'm sure
Uh,
that serves a military process or
yeah.
purpose of being less glare by having a plastic tube out there. But um, yeah,
And,
something to consider.
and also remember, clean your hydration pack.
Yes.
Because don't be like Tyler, who forgot to clean his and was drinking mold for who knows how long.
And this is why unless it's match day, I don't actually put water in my hydration pouch because I don't like to deal with having to clean it out.
And this is why Phil always walks back and forth to have to go grab his bottle and drink water.
I do, but we're just practicing. More steps, bro. Come on. All
I
right.
average
Any
12 to 15,000 steps a day. I think I'm good on steps.
One of the things we were kind of talking about too was Tyler mentioned all the pouches and stuff he has in the front of your setup. Now
Hmm.
I'm more of a minimalist person. We've talked about that before in podcasts in the
You also have a
past,
long,
but I have
very
a
long
longer
torso.
torso. Yeah, so
So,
I do use a dangler in front of mine, and honestly, it's not even full most of the time. I have to like find stuff to put in there, and then I get to thinking like, no, I shouldn't find things to put in there. It should be important. So you can carry stuff in there. I think of like a multi tool that you could have right up front that you'd have access to inside of there. A map, let's say that's something that you can consider. Though I will say there are some plate carriers, mine included, that have a little administrative pouch on top that you can stuff a map into as well. You could even put your phone in there if you wanted it, or put your phone into an empty like AR pouch or something like that. But yeah, so that's not a bad idea either, having that dangler in front of you with a multi-tool. And something I didn't actually write down, Tyler, is we talked about last episode was having a radio on you.
mhm.
You can also you should also consider mounting your radio to your body armor so that it's up and out of the way and kind of tucked out from. And I have these little wings that I have on mine that Velcro right into the front of it, and they tuck underneath the front or the cover bun, and they keep the radio out of the way. And then I run a cable out back with my antenna on the back of the pack.
Mhm. Yeah, I just throw my radio in one of my AR pouches. It's great.
Yeah, and honestly, it depends on the carrier, right? Like mine, just would I can't fit a radio in there just because the way
For
that
sure.
my minimalist
Yeah.
setup is, right? Where
Yeah,
Tyler can.
exactly. I like to put it there too because I find it significantly easier for me to grab my radio as well. So,
But I honestly, I think that's kind of like at this point we're kind of at the end of like the advanced plus, right?
so I know.
And
Well, this is where I know when it comes to a plate carrier, Phil and I do have our carrier setups a little differently. Where I actually have more medical on my plate carrier as well.
I do actually have most of my medical on my plate carrier.
Oh, well, I've that's
Yeah,
right. You don't put it on your belt. I
right.
put I put identical IFACs, or at least the medical supplies, on my belt and on my plate carrier. So this way I have double of it. So so I pretty much have two tourniquets on me. Actually no, I only have one on there. Never mind. And compression gauze and just a bunch of other stuff. Just a bunch basically I double up my IFAC except my tourniquet. So
Yeah,
I like to
that's
put
a
medical on, yeah.
yep. No, I agree. That's a good call out. And I've got again long torso. I have a roll one in the back of my
Hmm.
setup that hangs like a rear dangler, basically,
Yep. Which I
from
think that's
Feral
how
Concepts.
I think that's how Daryl does it too. I think he puts
Yeah,
like a back dangler for his medical. And then now that I think about it, I have a fire starter inside my plate carrier as well.
I have one on my knife like holster on my belt. It came with it. I didn't really want it, but I was like, oh okay,
Hmm.
it's just gonna chill there. And if I haven't found a reason to take it off yet, and it's attached via like a bungee, and I loop it so it doesn't get caught on anything. And I've yet to catch it on anything. I'm sure at some point it'll get caught on something. I'll get frustrated and then I'll rip it off. And and throw it
Yeah.
away, or put it in my dangler or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else I have in my plate carrier. I mean, I'm fire starter. I don't I think I might have a whistle in there too. I just have a
Yeah,
few
and the
just
other thing to
random
consider
things.
too
Yeah.
is like a cummerbund as well. Like I use a stretchy one, and it actually
hmm
has spots for additional AR mags. So if I wanted to go beyond just the three that I have in the front of my placard on my placard, I could actually put another like three on either side of me if I chose to. Now I've got some other random things in there. Like I use one of the pouches to hide some cables and stuff. So take that into consideration. But you have the ability, if you look at that, to expand on the amount that you can carry. The only downside with that is because it is like a bungee material, there's no slots for side plates.
hmm
And some people swear by side plates. So, like, if you're going to buy front plates, why wouldn't you buy side plates? But for my setup, I don't have them.
No, I don't either. I don't want all that extra bulk, and I feel like I'd be not as mobile as well by
Right.
having the
And
side plates.
there is an argument to say that you don't even need a whole like plate carrier with plate setup, and that you're better served being lighter weight and more mobile, in which case you could look at something like a chest rig as an alternative, right?
That is true.
Because that served, plenty of militaries of some sort of chest rig, all the way back to, World War II of some sort, and maybe even earlier than that, having a bandolier or something like that, where you can still carry ammo on you, but you're not carrying the weight of plates. You still have the ability to attach other things with you, put a backpack on with some hydration in it or something like that.
I really got to order my chest rig.
Tyler, we're almost into October, sir.
Dude, it has been my focus has not been on
Did you order some
a
slugs
zombie.
yet?
I'll admit it. Nope.
Okay.
I pretty just got
Um,
home from work, man.
I know. So, okay, kind of moving on. Just to kind of keep us on track here. So these are the things that I would say are kind of a minimum if you're looking to get like a true modern Minuteman prepared citizen loadout. Body armor or chest rig with all the other items that we talked about before, the belt, the rifle, the pistol, all those things I think are like the new standard for a prepared citizen. I I always think of like there's like a path that gun guys are going to take. Not all of them are going to do this, but if you start getting into guns and as soon as you buy an AR-15, you will at some point probably consider like, oh, I should get a plate carrier. I should put some plates in there. It's going to happen. I'll tell you, it'll eventually get there. You'll start thinking about it. It's going to pick at you. It's gonna eat at you until you get one.
Especially if you have friends who have plate carriers.
Yep. And I think it's another thing where you're normalizing, body armor for civilians. Why
hmm
not? Why not
Exactly.
own it? Obviously, don't go into the poorhouse to buy it, but I'd rather have it than not.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Anything can happen. So,
Yep. So now I want to finish up this whole series by talking about the next level items to consider as a prepared citizen. And I put some items there. And some of these people may think are requirements, right? And I would argue I'm looking at this list right now and there's one item on there. I'm like, you should probably have this no matter what anyway. But so kind of kicking that off, whenever you are using a piece of equipment that is moving, has a lot of pressure, and has metal on metal, you're going to wear stuff out. And that is your firearm. So the one thing that I do recommend, if you can't buy a second AR-15, which would then, in theory, have swappable parts, buy a replacement parts kit. You can get them like BCM makes one, and it's got all the little tiny parts that you would need that go bad, right? And then small enough where you could actually just put it in your dangler or in your front pouch, like Tyler has. Or if you're not planning on going anywhere and leaving your house, you could have it in like a separate like maintenance kit. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Tyler. Do you have spare parts, Tyler?
I don't know if I necessarily have spare parts, but I definitely have. I guess I've got two, since I have an AR pistol and I have an AR rifle.
That's true.
So I already have some random extra stuff, and I guess I also do have another upper as well. Wait a minute. Yes, my brain, I'm trying to remember. I'm like, what do I have? But of course, I have a 300 blackout. So yeah, exactly. You know what? You should have a 300 blackout upper,
Ma-
just because. Why
I,
not?
sure. If you're not leaving your home, you can have all this stuff and you can have it all positioned, in your house, easy to access or whatever.
Yeah,
Or if you're living with somebody, have, one person with one caliber and have one person with another
yeah.
caliber, or if you want to share ammo or I don't,
No,
whatever.
I will lean towards just having the same thing, especially if you're looking at 300 blackout and 5.56. You do not in a high stress situation be like, oh, here's a magazine, and
Right. That would be
boom.
wrong.
Yeah, that would be my one hesitation in that case, which is also why like I'm definitely a fan. Once again, Phil knows this. I'm a big believer in choose an operating system and stick with it. Like with concealed carry, with a lot of things. And I mean, of course, me being single, I know this is a very idealistic mentality, and I will probably change my mind one day. So, but as of right now, I think it's a good idea if you and your partner have the same concealed carry gun,
Hmm.
if
I can see.
possible.
I can see that.
But do you kind of see where I'm coming from with that? This way, you can share mags. You're comfortable with the same gun. I think of a home defense gun. Your home defense gun should be based off of whoever is the lowest, I guess, the least trained, the least comfortable with it, because this should be
Sure.
something that they are comfortable with as well.
Hmm.
So that's even why I know Phil and I have spoken about this. With me being a lefty, my home defense gun is very lefty friendly. But of course, that also means it's not as friendly to a right-handed person.
No,
Like
it's
you
annoying
can
every time I
do
pick it
it.
up.
What's up?
Every time I pick it up, I'm annoyed.
It is because it's the light is on the right side, so there's really no good way to grip it. Like, of course, the sling's on the other side. So, which is also why, like, hey, hopefully, whoever I marry is a lefty. It'll make my life easier. But at the same time, that is a blessing for future Tyler to figure out. So,
Yeah, dude. Or just if you marry somebody who has no firearms experience whatsoever, just tell them that everybody shoots
teach,
on their left-handed.
yeah, just
Just
teach him to shoot with their left hand. There you
there are
go.
some people that do that, or find somebody who's left eye dominant and just be like, "Hey, it's
That is
easier for
true.
you to learn how to shoot left-handed."
That is very true. But all that to say, kind of going back to it's yes, it's important to have replacement parts because end of the day, look at the second law of thermodynamics. Everything is breaking down. Everything
It's true.
is getting worse and worse. That's basically what the second law of thermodynamics says. So have that. So what else? I guess what else in this next level should we have, Philip?
Yeah. So when you think about your AR-15 and the ammo that you put into it, there's plenty of people that are going to argue, like until they're blue in the face, that you should have 62 grain, like green tip ammo, or you should have 75 grain open tip match, or you should have um some kind of like soft point, rifle round, or a hard cast, whatever.
You like really
People are
gotta
going to
label all
argue and they're
that
blue in the
stuff,
face.
man.
But I will tell you, there is plenty of proof that 55 grain ball ammo has put enough people on the ground. It's just fine.
It worked for
That
Kenosha kid.
it did. I was actually not going to bring that up, but
Oh,
you're
really?
right. No, it's totally fine that you did. I would just use that example all the time.
But it's
Um,
true.
but when you're looking at AR-15 ammo, it's the
I met him,
speed.
by the way.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I met him a couple years ago. It was his first public appearance after being found not guilty. So it was actually kind of cool. Hmm.
But anyway, so he had 55 grain ammo. Now,
Yeah.
again, if you can, and that's probably most affordable. If you can afford 75 grain, by all means, go to town, because the heavier the bullet, typically the better, the performance you're going to get out. But not always. Again, the whole point behind an AR-15 round is speed kills, right? So,
Yep.
um, whereas again, if you're looking, especially if you have a shorter barrel firearm that you're going to use for home defense, and it's in 5.56, you are going to want to look at 75 grain ammo, because you're losing speed um, off of your round, because the barrel is shorter. It doesn't have enough chance to gain speed behind it. And if you're looking at a heavier bullet, then you're going to get better ballistic performance out of that, right? Versus, and I've actually switched over to 75 grain ammo. I just literally just did that this weekend.
Oh, good for you.
Yep. So all that to say, carry specialty ammo with you, and I say like, trying to think of best way to say this without like trying to come off as being like, I don't, anyway, look at other ammo out there. Find out what it's capable of doing. Right. So there are ammo that's designed for hunting. So if you have
Yep.
concerns about hunting, you can still hunt with your AR-15. Maybe you do want to look at a higher grain bullet. You
Hmm.
want to look at a hunting round. You want to look
Or
at
you're
a
contextualizing. That's what you're doing. Like
right,
I think in episode 1 or episode 2 I mentioned this, how whenever I'm hiking, I have bear rounds with me as well.
right.
So I have my
Do you
typical
have
hollow
yeah?
points. What's up?
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I have my regular hollow point in my gun, and then I'll have a spare of another hollow point, and then I'll have another spare of that'll be my bear rounds. So that's typically what I have whenever I'm hiking, especially if
Right,
I'm in an area where I'm pretty sure I'm like, I might have to run into some wildlife.
right. Do you have a need for green tips? I don't know why you would, but
Yeah, I
wink, wink,
mean,
wink, wink, wink.
I know.
Anyway,
I don't
so
really think much about it because right now, of course, because my home defense is my 300 blackout, so my plate carrier has 300 blackout in it because
right,
that's what's ready. And they are a little different because there is one where it's just regular, like it's the like the Hornady ballistic tip or whatever. And then I do have two, and I have another mag that's deer rounds. So
right.
I do have different ammo in there. So at least for my 300 blackout, as I think about it, like yeah, if it was a 5.56, I probably would have a green tip in there just because why not?
Yeah, and again, this is all in context of like being the Minutemen. If you look back historically, right, it was defending your nation, right?
Yep.
So obviously, all quote unquote like legal uses within it comes in defending your nation, that kind of thing, right? So something else too to consider, just kind of moving on from that, is if you are going to be moving around a lot, like let's say you're being out of your house or you're going to be in and out of the woods or something like that, consider other personal protection items that are not just like body armor,
Like a
but also
K95
considering,
mask.
yes, a KN95 mask, because you never know when COVID will sneak up on you.
It's COVID 2024, bro.
Yeah, dude, for sure. But no, I was thinking more lines of like knee pads,
I
right?
agree.
Now, I can't tell you how many times and again, a lot of this is my context, right? How many times in a match that like kneeling behind a barricade, going down on like somebody puts chip out. I think of Zombie Invitational last year. I brought knee pads because the year previous I was aware of the fact that there is chip that they put down. And one of the guys that was on our squad last year did not have knee pads on, and he tore his knees up. And there was like blood all over the place, whatnot. And the simple
It's
knee pad,
crazy.
whether it's an in pant knee pad or like over the pant knee pad or like the detachable ones that they make for the Crye Precision pants. Tyler, you've got a set
It's
of
like
like
I forgot
over
the
the
name.
pant.
It's like yeah, it's like over the pants. They're like the Arc T-Rex or something like that. I can't
Yep.
remember how you
Yeah.
pronounce it, but that's what I
I know what
have. I
you're talking
bought
about.
those years ago, and I love them. I've worn them. I've worn them primarily, of course, for training and at the Wolverine 5K. And I've worn that for what 8 hours straight, and it was fine. Like no issues at all.
Yeah.
They're extremely comfortable, very mobile, and they protect my knees. Which ironically, like I wish it'd be nice if I had a second pair, or I just leave a pair in my trunk because I feel like I use knee pads all the time now. Granted,
Right.
because we're in the middle of renovations at my work, so so I've kind of been playing a part in that. I'm like, man, it'd be really nice if I had knee pads right now.
Might not be a bad idea to pick up another pair, and that way they're always in your vehicle if in case
I
you need them.
know they're like $80
And
though.
then buy some like cheaper ones and put them in your car.
I know.
Because
That's
you,
probably what I should do. I could probably
yeah,
just buy a pair of like $20 construction knee
right,
pads because and hopefully with my context, I wouldn't be wearing those for like 8, 10 hours straight. It'll probably be more like an hour or
right.
two. So
And again, I'm very much of the opinion, and I think it's good to have a pair of external knee pads because like the ones I use pants that have like knee pads in them, especially for matches, because it I feel like it's for me anyway, just me, it's less restrictive, and I don't even notice that they're there by the end of the day, and I don't use overly like thick or complex knee pads. I use and I kind of rely on the material of the pant, right? And obviously that's going to eventually wear out the pants. So that is the weakness of those. Again, you get maybe a little bit more mobility. They're a little bit lighter, but you are required to have pants that have like pockets in them for the knee pads to go into. You have to
Hmm.
move them from pant to pant, which is a pain. But again, that's just the way I like it. I like a nice lightweight. All right. Tyler, what else you got in there? I think if you're looking at the same list I am, this next item is right up your alley there, buddy.
Candy.
I don't. Yep, candy.
That's the thing. I mean, I think of, and I know it was probably a half joke, but I do agree. Like, you need some type of simple carb that your body can quickly break down. So whether it's candy or even if you just want to put glucose packets in there. I think of one time I was hiking, and it was, my goodness, Phil. I think my watch told me that I basically, it estimated that I sweated out about a gallon of water that day.
Oh,
It's something like that. It was a crazy amount, which is crazy because like my stepsister's a nurse, and she was like, "What the heck were you doing?" And I'm like, "I was hiking. I was basically." And there's some parts where you're basically rock wall climbing, and it was exhausting. And of course, I was hiking. I ran into people, and there are these. I ran into like this group of three people, and then there's this group of two, and the six of us ended up kind of hiking, staying together and hiking. And then come to find out, like these two girls, they just had like a bottle of water each, and this is like an 8 or whatever, 8, 9, 10 mile hike there and back, and they were like, I'm like, have a glucose packet. They had no snacks, they had nothing. Like, they just had a little bit of water. So I was like, you're probably gonna need this a lot more than I will. So
yeah. And then even
yeah.
beyond that too, having some kind of uh, potentially having some kind of powder to mix into your water, or something that helps you with electrolytes of some sort,
Hmm.
right? They're going to help
I
you
agree.
retain that water. We had a individual that we have shot with many times before, who I won't name, but they that hit a wall and ended up having some issues with dehydration at a match recently, and that was a match, right? And it was hot. It was hot out, and I'm pretty sure he was drinking, but probably wasn't looking at how he's going to retain that water, right? So just a little bit of some sort of electrolyte to kind of keep you going. Because once you could drink and drink and drink water like crazy, but if you're not retaining any of it, it's just going right through you. It's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
And then you can hit a wall, and you don't want to have. You obviously have to do that in a situation where like your life is on the line, right?
Yep.
It's one
Or
thing to
even
do at a
just have
match,
salt
but
packets.
yeah, that is
Even
an
if you
option
just
too.
had
You just pour it in your water and call it good.
I know people are like, "Ew, that's nasty." I'm like, "Well, if that's all electrolytes are, it's just sodium. It's just salt." So even if you put a
Right.
little bit of salt in your water, that'll help you retain more of that water.
Right.
Because if you're just peeing it all out, there's really no point.
Yep. And pre-hydrating is important too, as
Oh,
well.
100%.
All right, Tyler. What do you got next on our next level items?
I mean, a map apparently.
Yeah. So this actually was one I was thinking about earlier. I mentioned that this I may move up into more of a critical item. I would probably put that into advanced plus potentially, unless you're not planning on leaving your house, right? If you're going to
Hmm.
stay around your house, that's fine. But if you need to go somewhere, it's probably not a bad idea to have a map of your area, whether it's something that you printed out in advance, or let's say you're traveling, it's in your vehicle, and like an EMP hits, or there's like a major accident between like you and home, and you have to figure out how to reroute yourself back. A map is going to, like a physical paper map is probably going to save your bacon. Both of my vehicles have maps in them, just
Hmm.
because that exact reason.
Yeah.
And it was
My
funny
get
because I was
home bag
actually
has a
down in one
map.
of our, what's that?
My get home bag has a map.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually down recently in a city local to us, and the cellular coverage was down in the city. And I was there with a buddy, separate vehicles, and we were trying to get out of the city, but there was construction. It was all over the place, and we could not figure out how to get to the city. And it wasn't until, and even he ended up using his Garmin GPS to get out, which didn't have like construction in it, right?
Hmm.
But it's
You don't
amazing how
download
quickly
your
you
iPhone
realize how
map?
you No, because it was all again, it was construction, man. So, and I guess if I had the map on there, blah blah, I'd be fine. But no, I don't
No, I'm
typically
saying
download
like you
maps.
can, because you can down. I have all of Michigan downloaded on my phone.
No, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I and every time I travel somewhere, I do that too. Like when I was in Wisconsin a couple weeks ago, I downloaded all of Wisconsin onto my phone.
Yeah, that's actually a
It's
great idea. If you
it's
could
a
do it,
couple.
if you can rely on your phone to be up and running,
Mhm.
that's not a bad idea
It's a
either.
couple gigs. Like don't get me wrong. Like it's space, but for me, I'm like
Right.
if I'm gonna go somewhere where I know or that I it's unknown to me, or if I know is not going to have yeah, it's not gonna have connection, I'll just download the map. So like when I went to the UP, that was a huge help actually.
Right.
So mhm.
So
And
not a
so
bad idea. And then
yeah.
again, it depends on how the maps will function with like GPS too, right?
Oh,
Like
for
the
sure.
cellular is down. If the map interacts with GPS still, then you might be able to still navigate via the GPS,
Mhm.
which you're going to use it. Which you uses anyway. But sometimes maps don't always play nice if you only have GPS and not cell service.
I know.
But not a
And
bad idea to have map of the area,
yeah.
something
Or
printed
even
out.
well, of course, like you said with the EMP, but even having that's something I would like to have eventually one day, but an actual like a handheld GPS.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yep.
cool. Right now, I
No,
have a
that
GPS watch, which
right.
is cool because I actually have different coordinates in my watch, including my home, where it can navigate me back home.
The other thing to consider, and again, it depends on the situation that you're in, right? Let's say you're a natural disaster. Obviously, the satellites and GPS are still going to function. So having something like that would be extremely valuable. If
Hmm.
you're looking at an event of like an EMP event or an invasion of some sort, the first thing that's going to get shut down is going to be GPS.
Oh yeah,
Like that's all controlled by government today. They just service they just offer to like citizens of the United States, but it can be used against us. So they would shut it down and then use whatever navigation satellites they have in need, or maybe China knocks out the navigation satellites anyway, and you're stuck. So it's a good idea to have redundancy in that space. All
yep,
right.
I agree with that. So
So
what's next, Phil?
yep. So thinking about other items that you may want to have on your firearms, specifically on your rifle. We talked about earlier having a red dot on your rifle, but there are instances where magnification can come in use for you depending on where you live, right? Like let's say you live out in an area where there's not a lot of trees, right? Now, typically, if you're looking at magnification, people always assume it's more offensive, right? Because why would you need to zoom in on a target that you would need to, potentially go after, right? Why would you need to do that? Well, there's a few reasons. Number one, like let's say you are hunting, you could have magnification anyway, but then target identification on top of that to be able to say, hey, is this a friendly or not? So you could have magnification on your firearm, or you could have binoculars or whatever. But hey, let's say there is, again, we're talking prepared citizen, has happened in the past in the United States history. So let's say you are talking invasion, right? And let's say you are defending your city for whatever reason. Again, people can argue with me on this and say that's a pipe dream, it'll never happen, but you never know. Having magnification, may save your butt because then you can engage targets at a longer distance. What are your thoughts on magnification, Tyler?
I mean, it's extremely important. You need to be able to see what's going on. And let's say you're a natural disaster happens and you got to hunt, like you got to see what you're actually looking at it, or if you be able to see that animal. So either way, I agree.
Yep.
So there's
And
really
then,
not much to comment on that personally.
yeah,
So
and kind of going in line with that too, if you've heard of kill flash before,
I have no idea what that is.
it's the honeycomb thing you put on the front of an optic. The idea is that it's supposed to help
Oh, I
keep
see.
glint off of your. I couldn't remember what it was. It podcast recently. I couldn't remember the name of it, and then it came to me right after we got done. But it helps reduce the glint on the front of a firearm, specifically an optic, I should say. Actually, just an optic. So whether or not you have an LPVO or a red dot, there are multiple manufacturers that'll make um, like that honeycomb kill flash that you can put on it that will help reduce that signature from like the sun glinting off of the glass on an optic. And they work pretty well. And I have shot with kill flash before too, especially on a magnified optic. If you are in magnification, you don't even notice it at all. And then even if you are shooting it non-magnified, it doesn't. It's not distracting enough to not make it worth it, right? So then again, like say you're dealing with an invasion of some sort. Again, we're talking Minutemen here. Uh, you are going to not want to give away your position, and one of the ways of doing that is not having a glint off of your scope.
Exactly. And then probably some type of course, because on your rifle by now you should have a rifle light. So
Yep.
something to even cover that so this way you don't ND your light as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. Or any other kind of like laser that you may have for like if you're thinking about like night vision type stuff too. A lot of people will
Hmm.
have covers on those as well,
That's
just so
true.
they don't accidentally negligently discharge a laser or a IR light of some sort. All right, Tyler, we're getting towards the end of here. What else you got for us that might be of use for somebody?
I mean, I see the list, but I see a pistol optic. But personally, I think you should just. We're in an age where I feel like pistol optics are almost required.
Yeah.
or that's kind of where I'm at with that. I, I just, I know there are some people who are out there. The big reason why I'm a big fan of pistol optics is because you're able to target focus. That's the main reason why I'm a big fan of pistol optics. Of course, I have a personal reason for me being I have a weird thing where I am right eye dominant near and left eye dominant far, so I see double with iron sights no matter what. But with a red dot, I can see just a target and I don't see double anymore. I don't know how it works or why, but either way. But I do know some people, guys like Brian or Buddy, he's able to target focus with iron sights, which is awesome to me, which is crazy. And I'm like, hey, more power to him. But that takes a lot of training. Whereas with a pistol optic, you're able to do that pretty much right away. Granted, there is a big learning curve because if you don't have a good master draw and presentation, you're going to be looking around fishing for your red dot all day long. So that's why it's really important to dry fire and practice and train with that. So that's my opinion on a pistol dot. What would you?
Yeah, I would say nowadays most people are shooting with a dot of some sort. There's a few boomers out there who don't. I'm just offended probably like half of our listeners.
The gun
And
Amish?
it's fine. And everybody should learn how to shoot a pistol with its iron sights, right? Because again, you go back to the whole concept of an EMP or like a long lasting whatever. It maybe gets hard to get batteries, and eventually your battery's gonna run out. Right now, some of these modern optics are like stupid long, like 20,000 hours plus, right? In order to run an optic. And then like with the Holosuns, they have the backup. Solar panels on the units. They even have some optics that don't even have batteries in it that are they have like a solar panel that charges a diode or whatever they're called inside of the unit, so that it's always lit up, right? And there are other situations again like EMP knocking one out, gone. I actually lost recently. I don't know. I have no idea what happened. The gun was in my bag. The last thing I think I remember doing was cleaning it, and always check my optics before I put it back in the bag. Optic worked. Put the gun in the bag. Went to go pull it out to shoot a 3 gun match this past weekend. Optic was dead. No idea. And it's a Holosun, which I generally have not had any problems with. So I ended up going to my backup gun because I had one with me that had a dot on it. But otherwise, I was going to be shooting irons the rest of that match. So that's something to take and consider as well too. Is that if you have a dot, what does it look like to get backup irons on that pistol if you have to go to backup irons? Like, can you see over the irons, like through your dot, right? To line that up? Or do you have a way to remove the dot from the pistol if the dot does go down? Right. If you're carrying like a hex wrench on you that fits, fantastic. You'll be able to take it off no problem. But just some stuff to consider for sure. Um, I mentioned here additional ammo and additional rifle magazines. We kind of covered that within like
Dude, we've
the
covered that in the last two
yeah,
episodes.
we kind of covered that with the like Advanced Plus with the plate carrier. But the last
Oh,
item I would put on
well, we
there, and
even
I
spoke
think
about that in basics with Battle
right,
Belt.
yep. The last item I would put on that list would be a suppressor.
I'm surprised you don't have helmet on here.
Yeah, and that is an option. You could do that if you wanted to, but the suppressor to me, kind of digging into that real quick, being a suppressor owner myself, there are a lot of advantages to being able to reduce your sound signature, make it harder to find out where the sound signature came from, which the suppressor is really good at doing. And then if you're looking at, let's say that you have a 22 rifle or 22 pistol with subsonics, or a 300 blackout with subsonics, you can get to be really quiet, shooting like almost whisper quiet. I've shot a bolt action 22 with a 22 suppressor on it, and you literally would hear like the action, or not the action, but like the trigger. You pull the trigger, you hear the hammer drop, um, and that was it. And then you'd hear like the thump of the bullet hitting the dirt at the berm that we were shooting at. It's wild, absolutely wild. Did not think it was possible. So having a suppressor, especially like if you are having like an issue where there's like invasion or you're having to defend your house, um, you don't ever want to pronounce that you're necessarily there and you've got firearms, right? Like obviously there's probably a bunch of people popping stuff off all the time, whatever. Name the situation. But it's never a bad idea to be able to suppress your footprint. I know you don't own one yet, Tyler, but I'm just curious what your
Nope.
thoughts are on suppressors in this type of scenario.
I mean, I feel like suppressor should be something that you should have. Once again, you're able to, well, one, protect your ears. Two, I just realized we don't have Ear Pro or Eye Pro in here at all in our
Yeah.
list. But
Yep.
I, I feel like that's, I guess that'll be basics at this point. So, hey, moving back, we need Ear Pro and Eye Pro for basics.
Yeah, I feel like we did cover it at some point. I think
I
we
don't
we
think we
realized we
did.
forgot it. I think we did.
I don't,
Could be wrong.
maybe I don't
Listeners
remember,
can
but
correct
either
us because
way,
they probably listened to it semi recently.
say that again.
I was just saying that the listeners can correct us later if we talked
Yeah,
about it in the
exactly.
past.
I don't think we did, but either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the other
So,
thing I was thinking about with the suppressor too, though, is if you do have to like cook off around inside your house, man, it's gonna be. I wish I had a suppressor because it's gonna hurt your ears. You know, potentially if you don't have ear hearing protection on, right?
exactly. So either way, like it's really you gotta protect your ears because even though you talk to military and police personnel, and they talk about how like our bodies are so smart to where it'll protect your hearing in that moment to where you might not even hear the gunshots, but that doesn't necessarily. But you'll still have that internal like trauma in your ears. So even though it's as if you never heard it, the damage is still there versus like you might not get the ringing right away. So it's just very fascinating when you kind of look into that. But all that to say, yeah, I don't. And suppressors are important. Like I think of countries in like in Europe for crying out loud, you're able to buy a suppressor and go hunting with it. Some places it's basically mandatory or required. Then there's America.
I know they're considered common courtesy overseas to shoot with one on. There's
Hmm.
even some matches I've seen where it was more or less a requirement. They're like, hey, if you could please have most of your shooters shooting with a suppressor, we'd really appreciate that. Just
Yeah,
because it's less of
exactly.
a nuisance to the neighbors.
Exactly. And that's how it should be. But unfortunately, here in America, nope, you got to pay money.
Yep, we got
So,
dumb laws on that books for that.
and expensive suppressors as well. So, I mean, so going back to that, yes, suppressors are important. I do want to get one. I am not, I am choosing to spend my money in other areas right now, but I will get
Yeah,
one eventually.
yeah. And let's say that you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a suppressor. No matter what, you're spending money on a tax stamp. $200, nothing you can do about that.
Hmm.
Unless you're like a manufacturer or something like that. Then you're anyway. But that chances are you're not, right? We're talking about civilians here, or citizens here. But if you, let's say you do own a 22 pistol, right, or a 22 rifle, might not be a bad idea to consider buying an inexpensive 22 suppressor that'll cost you between, it's probably more than $200 to $300 now, but let's say between $200 to $300 now. $200 tax stamp, you're out $400 to $500, plus whatever tax, that kind of stuff, right? But may not be a bad idea because if suppressed again, if you're going to suppress something, 22 is a fantastic caliber to suppress. Suppresses extremely well. But anyway, Tyler, we have come to the end of our list. Is there anything else that you could think of that was not added on this list that you would like to cover, um, that might be useful to your average prepared citizen?
A good pair of waterproof hiking shoes
Yeah, or boots.
or boots. Yeah, just some type of shoes or footwear that is waterproof that can handle the elements, whether it's snow or sand or some type of terrain. That will be really important, and because there's nothing worse than having wet socks, man, having wet feet. That it's just an absolute pain. So just having a good pair of shoes, that's going to be
Yep.
really important.
And you could
I-
even toss like a poncho in there as well too.
yeah. I mean, I know at this point we're kind of like getting into like the get home bag stuff too. Like,
Pretty
of
much.
course, fire, a compass. What else? Spare batteries, a charger.
Yeah, I mean the list is endless for sure.
It really is.
Um,
So,
and honestly, like if listeners think we forgot something blatant, let us know. We'll talk about it on the next episode,
mhm.
and we'll be
So,
like,
what about
"Yeah,
you?
we
Is
were
there anything
dummies. We
else that
forgot
you're
this."
thinking of?
No, dude, there's nothing else at all except for I have one thing.
What's up?
Tyler, what's your dad advice for tonight?
Take a nap.
Or go to bed on time.
Yeah, that too. Ironically, for those who don't know, I am a pastor, and probably my most famous sermon that I've preached. I'm the operations pastor, so I don't preach all the time. But one of my most beloved messages I've ever preached at our church was entitled "Take a Nap." I had a lot of people give me compliments on that one, and they told me that, yeah, I followed your sermon. I took a nap today because the Bible is very clear about taking a Sabbath and resting, and how the Sabbath was made for man, because we need to rest. And God Himself, of course, I'm getting all biblical right now, but the Bible says that God rested after 6 days of creation. On the seventh day, He rested. And I believe He did that to be an example for us as people, because we live in the hustle culture right now, which is toxic. It's all about trying to show off, and there's this toxic mentality of, look at how hardworking I am, or I've never take I've worked at my job for 20 years and I've never taken one vacation. That's stupid. And I will stand by that, because you need to rest. And of course, you need to spend time with your family. Well, actually, you don't need to do anything, end of the day, but I would highly recommend that.
That's
So,
fair.
all that to say, take a nap, get some rest. I know Phil and I kind of kind of alluded to it in the episode today. Like, it's been a crazy. Actually, it's just been a crazy month for me, and that's probably really, I'm talking to myself right now. But
No, it's all good, dude. And honestly, like you and I, I was still working right prior to when we started recording this tonight.
mhm,
Like truth be told, I'm exhausted,
I believe it.
and I'm looking forward to go to bed. And I know you are too. And I know you've been on your feet all day as well. So that's really great advice. The only thing I would add to that is if you are going to take a nap and you're in the middle of like the end of the world scenario, make sure you got somebody on Overwatch for you.
Oh, please, yes, exactly. Yeah, in the world, like, yeah, you need your buddy, but at the same time, that's the importance of a
Still gonna sleep?
community and
Yeah,
having a buddy where
right.
taking shifts. So,
Absolutely.
what about you, Philip?
So my advice, we kind of talked about it earlier, was to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And I know it's such a weird thing, and it's very much a dad advice. Like, make sure you drink your liquids. But realistically, our bodies can take a lot, but one thing they're not great at dealing is not great at dealing with lack of fluids, right?
Hmm.
And you can go on a lot. Like you can go easily a whole day without eating something, right? As long as you are hydrating in a correct way that also includes some kind of electrolytes, right? Because your body will, it needs that. It has to operate on those things. And eventually you're going to have to eat, right? Especially if you're working hard, you're going to have to eat. Some people say,
Hmm.
oh, can wait 7 days without having to eat. But honestly, like if you're working pretty hard, you're looking at like 24 hours, 48 hours, you're going to start eating. Otherwise, you're going to start having problems.
It's true. I
But
will admit it.
if you don't even hydrate prior to that, you're going to have even worse issues.
Yeah.
So make sure you're hydrating. Like even if you're like, I had a liquid IV today. Like I was just kind of dragging a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I could probably stand to continue to rehydrate because I shot 2 matches over this past weekend. I could probably stand to continue to rehydrate my body, right, from a lot of exertion, from going from like 85-degree weather one day to getting dumped on the next day to just so it's not a bad idea to even just hydrate throughout your week and making sure that you're feeling um, well liquefied.
I agree. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, I used to be that guy that carried a gallon jug with me everywhere, and I would try to finish that thing. Now, should everyone drink a gallon of water a day? No, I don't think it's necessary. You don't really even need that much water. But even just having some type of a goal, maybe even just going through your massive 40-ounce water. Like I feel like that'd be more, at least having that type of a goal versus like having to, if you're not paying attention, going a day without even drinking, with only drinking a cup of water. So,
Right.
but either way, I agree. Stay hydrated. I mean, kind of like Phil alluded to, we had a buddy who was not doing very well because he got dehydrated. He was drinking a lot. Like he, by the end of the match, he drank half a gallon. So he drank a decent amount of water, but his body just couldn't hold on to it. And it was a hot day, and it was a lot of movement. So,
It was. Yeah. And I even remember like so this was the second time I did back to back matches. Did USPSA one day, 3 gun the next day.
mm-hmm.
The week previous, I was still kind of coming off of a lot of travel, or the time previous is coming off a bunch of travel, and like having COVID a couple of weeks prior to that. So I could tell my body was run down, and I was starting to feel slightly lightheaded as a result. And I knew the next day that if I didn't hydrate, I was going to be really wrecked. So I
Yep.
went home that night after USPSA and drank like 2 liquid IVs. I probably drank them maybe faster than I should have,
Yeah.
but like I drank down one pretty quick, and then I spent the next like hour drinking another one.
Yep.
Felt much better the next day. Still not 100%. And if I had been drinking, like a Pedialyte or whatever on top of that, but super important, especially in if you're looking at a scenario where you are looking at the end of the world, right? Like stay hydrated so you can continue to make quick snap decisions, and not pass out.
hmm I agree.
Sweet. With that, anything else, Tyler?
That's all I've got. Thanks everyone for listening in today. Be on the lookout for some exciting news.
Yeah,
We've got some great things coming up, some great
there's
things
some.
planned for the podcast. And one of them includes actually switching over to video.
Yes,
We
we are
won't
going to have that, but we are there. Like Tyler alluded to, I'm glad that you did, Tyler, because I almost forgot. There are some big changes coming. Hopefully, by the not this podcast, obviously, but the next podcast, you'll know all about them. We're hoping to expand our reach a little bit. We've got some pretty sweet stuff to announce with that. Other than that, make sure you like, subscribe to the podcast, comment. Again, if you leave a funny comment, we'll read on there, or you correct us on something, we'll also read it live. Uh, Anything else, Tyler? Follow us on Instagram, Acceptable Accuracy. We've got some head-to-head videos that Tyler has been and will be posting up of a recent USPSA match that are pretty fun to watch.
Yep, I've already posted one. Actually, at this, by the time you listen to this, we should have two already posted by then. So, but all
Sweet.
right, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this three-part series about being a prepared citizen, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.